All right. Good evening, everyone. At this time, we will reconvene our meeting for Tuesday, October 27th, 2020. Mr. Smythe, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, you can, Mr. Gartz.
He will be joining us in a few minutes.
Mr. Hall.
Here.
Mr. Krupa.
I'm here.
Ms. Mangan.
Here.
Mr. Nasser.
Here.
Mr. Sanfilippo.
Here.
Ms. Stites.
Here.
Mr. Wondrak. Mr. Wondrak, I'd ask you to hit the space bar.
He's there. Well,
Mr. Wondrak, your mic is muted. Holding the space bar would unmute you temporarily. And Mr. Anisia.
I'm here. Thank you. Okay. We are going to move on to number 9. And I have to actually bring that up. So let me go back to that. I'm going to jump ahead to number 10, Dr. Handerhand. You're on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Adonisio. Good evening. As most of you are aware, I sent a letter to the community last night indicating that the district has been experiencing cyber attacks. I have received several follow-up questions from the Wall community and from the media. I would like to state that I cannot provide additional information regarding the attacks. The district has been advised to not divulge details regarding these attacks by the experts that we are working with. To do so may make us vulnerable to more attacks. I would like to thank you for your understanding and for your continued patience. I would also like to announce that starting the week of November 9th, Wall Intermediate School will replace the all virtual Wednesday with another day of live instruction. It will follow a 3-2 and 2-3 cohort pattern like Wall High School. Principal Mbon has shared the details of the plan with Wall Intermediate School families. I have received communications from the public regarding increasing live instruction for all children. As I have stated in my previous letters, the goal is to increase live instruction. Discussions are taking place among the pandemic response teams at Wall Intermediate and at the high school. Additional discussions are taking place at the district and with local area health department. Please keep in mind that the health and safety of our students and staff are of the utmost priority. Health and safety of students and staff is an awesome responsibility, and it is one that I do not take lightly. As I previously indicated, the goal is to increase the amount of live in-person instruction. I want to see the schools filled with Wall Township's children. However, it needs to be done in the safest manner possible. I would like to reference the New Jersey Department of Health guidelines that school districts and local boards of health use when making decisions regarding school closures due to COVID-19. I offer the following scenario. 2 or more cases identified within 14 days that occur across multiple classrooms, and a clear connection between cases cannot be easily identified. The New Jersey Department of Health guidance for this particular scenario is to close school and pivot to all virtual learning for 14 days. I'd like to stress that is 2 or more independent cases. This is not a far-fetched scenario. It is a very plausible scenario. The decision to increase in-person instruction time will be a deliberate and measured one. Be reminded that real-time local health data are always a major factor. Moving forward with increased live instruction is always dependent upon collective community actions. In my letter sent last Friday, I discussed the topic of personal travel to hotspots and subsequent quarantines. I cannot recall an instance where the action of individuals can so greatly impact a school community. Please be mindful of this. I have received communications from parents informing me that some schools are back full-time or back at least for 5 early dismissal days per week at the intermediate and high school level. I am aware of these local school plans, and I cannot speak to other districts' plans. Each district is unique. In our own very own district, each school is unique, and each of the schools has unique needs. Be assured, increasing live in-person instruction is a topic I focus heavily on each day. I have also received questions regarding how the district can run a sports program and not have full-time in-person instruction. I believe the answer is rooted in the following. An education is compulsory through the age of 16, and an education is a right. Athletics is a choice, and athletics is a privilege. I hope this information was helpful to many of you that have asked these questions. This has been a very busy month. I would like to share with you some of the wonderful activities our schools have run for the Week of Respect and School Violence Awareness Week. By statute, these weeks are both held in October. Dress-up theme days, including Sock It to Bullying, Mismatch Day to demonstrate appreciation of the difference in others, Hats Off to Respect, just to name a few. Acts of kindness, including writing thank you notes to teachers, Students with Solutions art projects, kindness boomerangs, wearing blue for World Bullying Day, virtual pledges in support of anti-bullying, and daily quotes pertaining to respect. The list goes on, and I'm so proud of the work that has been done for these important endeavors in all of our schools. Each year, New Jersey school districts must report to the Student Safety Data System, or the SSDS. This system collects incidents of violence, vandalism, weapons, substance use, and harassment, intimidation, and bullying. It also collects harassment, intimidation, and bullying training information and programs conducted to support anti-bullying efforts. The complete reporting with breakdowns is included in tonight's agenda as attachment S9. The number of total incidents at the high school is 17. The intermediate school, 24. Allenwood, 1. Central School, 0. Old Mill, 1. West Belmar, 1. And primary school, 0. Again, a detailed report is available in attachment S9. Additionally, a requirement under the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act is for each school to conduct a school self-assessment for determining grades. Each school's school safety, school climate team is required to complete the self-assessment and enter the school's ratings in the NJDOE's online system. Each school's self-assessment is provided as attachment S8. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge Dr. Lisa Gleason, District's Director of Curriculum and Instruction's resignation this evening. In case you haven't heard, Dr. Gleason has been named Assistant Commissioner for the New Jersey Department of Education. The day of her appointment was a fantastic day for the children and educators of New Jersey. Despite only joining this district in July, I feel as if I have known Dr. Gleason for years. The unprecedented circumstances regarding the reopening of schools during a pandemic enabled me to see firsthand her abilities, work ethic, creativity, and degree of commitment to this school district during a very compressed time frame. I am a better educator for having worked alongside Dr. Gleason, and I am wholeheartedly grateful for our time together. While I am saddened that I will not be working each day with Dr. Gleason, I am so happy to know that she will be positively impacting the students of Wall Township as well as other students across New Jersey. Best wishes to you, Dr. Gleason. Mr. Adonisio, back to you. Oh, I think we are mute.
Sorry, I hit unmute and it continued to mute me. For the President's Report for the high school students month, nights of the week, I do not have that attachment for this evening. So I will go back to that at our next month's meeting. And I will move ahead to number 11, Board of Education updates. Mr. Scarillo, would you like to give us an update on the trailers?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. We, as the public knows from the last, and it's our intention, by the way, to provide one of these verbal updates at every meeting. You may not find it on the agenda when you look for it, but it is our intention that at each of these meetings, either myself or a member of my firm, if someone else is here that evening, to give you a verbal update. Additionally, as you know, we have been attempting, and I say attempting because sometimes technology doesn't allow it to happen exactly on Friday afternoon by 4 o'clock. We have been providing with updates that can be found on the website under the facilities tab. But where we are right now, as the public may remember from our last update, we unfortunately have to pause our interviews at this time based upon direction from the prosecutor's office. So we have paused our interviews. However, we have not paused a review of documents, nor have we paused receiving those documents, nor has there been a pause in individuals contacting us about placing their names on the list for interviews. So we did in this past week receive an additional request to be interviewed, and we have received additional documents that we're in the process of reviewing. So at this time, that's all we have to say, but we will continue to update on a Friday afternoon, and we will continue to provide a verbal update such as this one at each board meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Scarillo. At this time, we will go to number 12 on the agenda, which is public comment on agenda items. So this is for any action items on the agenda. And also, please, when you start talking about action items, please give us the number on the agenda that you are referencing. Ms. Cross?
Hi, Betsy Cross. I didn't hear, is Andy on the call? I didn't hear his name called. And Russell Gartz, is he on the call? He never has his picture up. I mean,
Ms. Cross, this is time for questions on action items on the agenda.
I know. I'd like to know where the board members are. So you should let us know. You should have their name up there. Thank you, Andy. Is Mr. Gartz, is he on the call tonight?
So Ms. Cross, you have the opportunity to make those comments, but they would really be appropriate for the second public comment section.
Okay. I know. I mean, everybody should be online. If you're on the board, you should be up here. I did have a couple questions. I mean, since Mr. Scarillo did give us an update, you know, I think what might be helpful is when you put up your agenda, say that you're still taking names, because I think people were hesitant to put in their name. So now I'm glad to hear another person did contact you.
Ms. Cross, that's comments for the second public portion. This is on action items.
Right, and he just talked about it, so that's why I'm bringing it up. 5 minutes really isn't enough time for something that's been dragging on for 14 months. I'm glad to hear that the update from Dr. Handerhan on the issue. I don't think Mr. Adonisio should have been on TV today talking about it. You know, let the cybersecurity investigate the matter rather than you going on about how wonderful our systems are and what we've done I thought that was rather strange.
Okay, again, Ms.
Um,
Cross, it's on action items. So do
Okay.
you have a number or no?
I do. On Lisa Gleason's resignation, again, I'm very sorry to see her go. And I'm glad that she is going to be the Assistant Commissioner of Education. I will be reaching out to her on the items that I've seen it specifically in Wall Township. And on recommendations, I think that I could make for every community in New Jersey and their Board of Education after doing this for 10 years. So I'm glad to hear that the commissioner is, the new commissioner is hired, and she's a woman and has a wonderful resume. Angelica Allen McMillan. And I think Lisa Gleason and her will make a very good team. And I'm sure they'll be much more responsive than some of the people we've had in the DOE. So sorry to see Lisa go. And that is my comment on that. I did see the nights of the week and all that in the agenda. I'm just wondering why you don't have it, Mr. Adonisio. All that was in the agenda. I'm not going to read the names, but it was there. So I don't know why you're not reading it. Did have a question on the health benefits. I noticed they're way up for the month. So if you could give an update on that because of COVID, where do you think those numbers are and where do you think they're going? Because you budgeted 9 million and the numbers is pretty high. So if Mr. Smythe can go over that tonight before you were voting on it, I think it would just be helpful to have an understanding on it before your vote. And glad to hear that the intermediate is now getting that extra day of school. That's very important. I'm sure Ms. Embaum did a good job with that. I'm really concerned about this HVAC. I see a resolution, it's number B6. Remember, before people vote tonight, I think you should go over exactly how much over budget this has now come in, because this is outrageous. So you took the second highest bidder and now you're coming in at 3 million. And it's the second highest bidder. There was all problems with the bid. So I think Bob Allison should actually review this when he's doing his audit report, because something's not right. And items that were said were missing, were not missing. And where is the audit report for the current year, ending in June of 2020? By now, we normally, I thought we'd get some type of update on it. So I'm wondering where that is. And then, yeah, I was looking at your detailed actual expenditures by year worksheet. I think everybody should have a good understanding of what was spent versus what was projected. And before you
Ms.
vote on
Cross,
this,
your time is done.
I'd like.
Ms. Mark?
Good evening, everyone. I have a couple questions on the actual board agenda. The first one is the sidebar that is attached. I am sure it is fine and the numbers are right, but I have never seen a sidebar put on board agenda without the WTEA being asked to sign it first at all. And we normally are the people that have created them in the past. So I'm wondering how that is up on the agenda without any signatures. The other thing on the board agenda on page 8, and this is not the first month that this happened, but it's the first month I'm thinking about saying something. Professional and support appointments start on page 8. Paying out of account 11-120-100-101-011. Then there's other appointments, then there's other stipends. And again, on page 11, more professional appointments appear under the same account number. So we've been wondering why exactly it is split like that, because it is the same type of appointments. They are temporary virtual appointments. So if we could find that out, that would be great. We are thrilled to know that George Maynard is coming back to the district as a district maintenance electrician. We were sad to see him go. We are glad to see him coming back. And all of the other questions I will leave till the end because they are all safety related. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Trying to unmute Melissa. Uh-oh. No. Okay, Melissa disappeared. So.
I didn't put it
Kendra?
there. Yeah,
Good evening.
it was just, I saw the hand raised up, but I didn't raise it. So, but I would like to say congratulations to Lisa Gleason, and she has been a great asset to our district for the years that she has been with us. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else for public comment? Is Melissa? Oh,
Excuse me, Mr. Adenizio, I just want to clarify and ensure, is Mr. Gartz attending the board meeting?
I am here, Mr. Smythe. I apologize for the delay.
Yep, that's okay. Just wanted to report that Mr. Gartz has joined the meeting.
okay. I just had somebody else that raised their hand and now they've disappeared again. Oh, there she is. Trying to unmute Jennifer. For some reason it's Zoom. Oh, Jennifer?
Hi, I do have a question.
Just,
I don't
just your full name for the record, please.
This is Jennifer Sy. In regards to Lisa Gleason's resignation, will that position be filled, or is that the position that is currently being posted for the experienced assistant superintendent?
Okay. Did you have anything else?
I just had a question in regards to that, and if the position for the other director of curriculum, if there was going to be a backfilling of that, or is there what was the status of the curriculum person for the Wall Intermediate based on the vacancy by Mr. Kokoda?
Okay. All right.
Those
Thank
are
you.
my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And anybody else? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Just Mr. Smythe, in regards to the splitting of the accounts that Ms. Marr said, is there a particular reason why it's done like that?
Well, I think the issue is that it's not a splitting of accounts, it's the same account. It's how they're being reported on the HR report. So I'd have to review
Okay.
what the particular issue is. I mean,
Okay.
it may be two different categories, or it may be described as different changes with regard to human resources, even though they're both being charged to the same account.
Okay. Go ahead, Erin.
So after reviewing it, I believe, so the two separate accounts, most of one account looks to be general education teachers. The two other accounts were for social worker, I believe, and paraprofessional. I don't know if it has to do anything in regards to special education funds or whatnot.
Any idea, Mr. Smythe, or no?
What, I don't prepare the HR report. Which were the, what were the Roman numerals under the report?
I didn't jot those down.
So
Brian,
it was,
it's one professional staff number one, the first one, with a, and then when you scroll down, you'll also see it under number I. They're both professional staff. The posting numbers look the same. And then all the other information seems to be the same, including the account number, the step, the salary, everything seems to mirror each other, except that one's kind of put off by itself. So
I can speak to the first, at least from a context point of view. The first, where we have the one individual with professional staff, that is a new hire to meet the needs of special education students in the virtual setting. And it's also one of the temporary positions for the virtual school. And the second group of professional staff is the virtual teachers are being renewed for another marking period through February 5th. And the other positions, in particular, the school social worker, is to replace a retirement that we had going into the school year.
Okay, thank you. And just for Mr. Scarillo, the sidebar that Ms. Marr brought up, is that generally how it's done? Does that go on? Do we sign it and post it on the agenda before they sign it, or have they reviewed it? Are we okay?
I think we're fine. Typically, you would never see a signed copy on the agenda. This is an unsigned copy that the board is approving, which was authorizing you, Mr. Addonizio, to sign it, or for the vice president to sign in your place. Often we get the signature ahead of time. It really doesn't matter. It's half a dozen, 1/6 of the other.
Okay.
The board has to approve it no matter what. And I'm certain that these numbers are correct, and they've been discussed by the administration.
Okay, thank you. And I would like to jump back.
Ralph, did Gail see that before? Is that something that we should, I mean, doesn't that just seem to be basic? If we make an agreement with them as a sidebar, you would think that there'd be a document created, which evidently this one was, and that we'd be sharing it with her before we put it on the agenda, right?
Excuse me, Mr. Hall, it was prepared by WTEA.
Okay, so the only thing in question is whether or not she would normally sign it first, she said, then send it back to Brian, I guess, and then he would then apply it to the agenda. The only thing here is that he put it on without her signature on it. That's the only difference from what I understand.
Mr. Hall, you know what? Ms. Marr has her hand up, so before we move on, let's maybe clarify it, make sure that there's no confusion going forward, and we don't have any issues down the road. Because it seems like we shouldn't. Ms. Marr?
Hi, it's been a pretty tough 6 weeks, but I honestly don't remember being the one that created this. No, I'm serious.
Okay.
All
right. Well, I mean, can we at least agree?
Joe, you're breaking up, Joe. Yeah, Mr. Hall's frozen.
How,
Oh,
now?
nope, you're back. Okay.
I just think it's something where Gail and Tracy should be able to work something out going forward to come up with a process. That's all. I don't think that should be hopefully going forward a big problem.
This is not a significantly controversial issue. We are agreeing
Right.
to put these two stipends in a collective bargaining agreement.
Okay. All right. Okay. Here is, oh. Good evening, doctor. Is he unmuted? Dr. Scarino?
Mr. Agnesi, just to clarify, are you reopening up public comment?
Yeah, actually, the doctor had his hand up and then he disappeared and then it popped back up again.
Okay.
So I wanted to catch him because it went up, but he's unmuted, I believe, and it's not working for him. So, doctor, are you there? Yeah, it didn't. Let me try it again. Doctor? Yeah, I think there's a problem on his end because on ours, it doesn't even show that he's got a microphone. So you can always call in to the meeting if you're having problems with your audio, doctor.
Hey, Ralph, can we
Yes.
move on to one of the other questions that was raised by the public?
Yes.
One was about the health benefits. I don't know if Mr. Smythe could just talk about that. I didn't notice that, and I usually look over the things pretty well. I'm trying to find it here. Was the public member suggesting that our money that we've spent so far on out-of-pocket claims is higher than traditionally you would see at this point in time? And I was just wondering if Brian had any comment on that, if that appears to be true, or if that's just a normal thing where people submit things when they start school, or again, however that would work.
Okay, for clarification, and we're coming out of a period of time with the pandemic that we saw very light medical bills because we are self-insured, so we pay actual claims. So the fourth quarter from our fiscal year, or the second quarter, when you get into like March through June and even into July, we had a very light medical bills coming through. However, this bill here of $762,000, which actually includes 2 months, would be considered also below some of the highs that we've had in prior years. We've had bills as high as $800,000-900,000 for a particular month. So I'm not alarmed with regard to these, with the claims that are on this month's payments.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. So with that, I actually want to jump back to the nights of the week because I was looking at the wrong item number and I went right over it. So for September, grade 9, night of the week, Michael Stites. 10th grade, Caitlin Pettit. 11th grade is Lauren Lacey, and 12th grade is Jack Alexander. Those are the students of the month. And the nights of the week for grade 12 for week ending 9/16/20 is Jacob Whitworth, Fiona Gill for the week ending 9/21, and for the week ending 9/28, Emma Chafee. So congratulations to all those students for all their hard work. And hopefully one day when we get back into real meetings, we will invite you to a board meeting and recognize you again. Okay. Moving on to number 13.
Mr. Adenizio?
Yes, Mr. Smythe.
If I could just clarify one other point with regard to the change order or the one resolution with regard to the HVAC project.
Oh,
I
thank you.
think maybe some of the comments with regard to the bid process may have been confused with a prior year bid. However, the discussion of these change orders was discussed at the workshop meeting 2 weeks ago, and we reviewed each one of the change orders and the necessity for those change orders. And the largest one being that we added air conditioning to the 10 classrooms on the first floor of Central School that are not air conditioned. That was added on to the project for that reason. That would not be a result of any issues with regard to the bid or the project itself, but it was to provide additional air conditioning in that school. And I'm trying to recall the percentage with regard to the change orders off the top of my head, but I believe it was under 2%, which is, not considerable when you're talking about a $3 million project. But I would, if I recall, I think it was about 1.7% was the percentage of the change orders with regard to the base bid of the project. And there were no allowances that were included in the project. So any additional or unforeseen work would be a change order that would be approved by the Board of Education. Thank you.
And Mr. Smith, one other thing, just to clarify, and it's my recollection, sorry, that we never receive an audit report in October from our auditor, correct? That's usually something that comes in November or possibly even December or later, depending on the state, correct?
For the last number of years, it's been presented in January. If not, I think the deadline to submit was even pushed further back. The deadline for them to submit the audit sum is December 5th. However, the state has to provide auditors information with regard to its TPF pension obligations from the state that they're attributing towards school districts. So that information has been delayed to the auditors, which has where the state has provided an extension with regard to school districts submitting. So it has never been presented or any documents provided in the month of October or even November. The earliest has been December.
Thank you. Okay.
Welcome.
Moving on, number 13, approval of the secretary minutes for the special meeting of September 10th, the executive session September 15th, workshop meeting September 15th, the executive session of September 22nd, and the business meeting of September 22nd, all for the year 2020. Could I have a motion on that?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Uh,
Anyone opposed? Nope.
Well, I have to abstain on A.
On A? Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. President, we normally do a roll call on the,
I'm sorry, Mr. Smythe. I was getting my meetings confused. Yes, roll call, please. I'm sorry.
yeah. And who was the second, if I may ask?
Chris.
Ms. Sanfilippo? Thank you.
Could you just tell me which item we're voting on?
Number 13. Number 13?
13, all right. Thank you.
Secretary's minutes.
Approval of the minutes. Mr. Gartz?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
yes,
Mr. Krupa?
Yes,
Ms. Mangan?
Yes.
Mr. Nasser?
I will abstain on A and yes to B through E.
Mr. Sanfilippo?
yes,
Ms. Stites? Yes. Mr. Wondrak?
yes,
Thank you. And Mr. Adenizio?
Yes. Thank you. Number 14, policy, recommended approval of the public hearing of the first reading of the following policies: 2622, 5111, regulation 5111, policy 5330.04, regulation 5330.04, policy 5610, regulation 5610, and policy 5620. I will open up public comment on these items?
I don't have a comment, Mr. Addisio.
Oh, okay. Sorry, your hand was up. We'll come back to you later. Thank you. Okay, seeing none, could we have a motion on that?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Mr. Hall, second, Mr. Wondrak. So a hand go up. Second, Mr. Wondrak. Mr. Smythe, roll call, please. Mr. Smythe?
Sorry, spacebar wasn't working. Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Krupa?
Yes.
Ms. Mangan?
Yes.
Mr. Nasser?
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo?
Yes.
Ms. Stites?
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak?
Yes.
Mr. Gartz?
Yes.
And Mr. Adenizio?
Yes.
Thank you.
We do not have any second readings this month. 15, could I have a motion on number 15, Board of Education report?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ms. Megan. Could I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Stites. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Mr. Krupa?
Yes.
Ms. Mangan?
Yes.
Mr. Nasser?
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo?
Yes.
Ms. Stites?
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak?
Yes.
Mr. Gartz?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Adenizio?
Yes, and I will abstain from B because I have a family member that is in the union. Okay, number 16, Superintendent's report. Dr. Handerhan?
Okay, I'd like a motion to approve by consent agenda items A through N.
We have a motion on that? Motion by Mr. Nasser, second by Mr. Wondrak. Any discussion, questions? Oh, seeing none, Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Ms. Mangan?
Yes.
Mr. Nasser?
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo?
Yes.
Ms. Stites?
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak?
Yes.
Mr. Gartz?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes, with the understanding that Mr. Smythe will look into that discrepancy that Ms. Marr pointed out and just and maybe come up with an answer at some point for us in the future on what that might have been. But yes, on everything.
Mr. Krupa?
Yes.
And Mr. Adenizio?
Yes, but I'm going to abstain on letter A, letter X for the portion that pertains to my family member.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, number 17, Business Office, Mr. Smythe.
Okay, ask for a motion to approve item 7.
You cut out, Mr. Smythe, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'd ask for a motion to approve items 17A through I by consent agenda.
So moved.
Do we have a second on that? Second by Mr. Krupa.
Excuse me, is
Yes.
this A through I or A through L?
Oh, A through L. I apologize. Thank you. So the motion from Mr. Gartz and the second by Mr. Krupa that it's A through L.
Mr. Gartz, that's good.
Yes, I make that motion.
Thank you.
Any discussion, questions?
I have a question regarding I through L, initiative allocation. Can you just shed a little light on what that actually is? As an example, technology funds, and I see Brookside and Summerhill are mentioned.
Yes, we are the custodians of funds that they receive from the state in the form of grants. So rather than the State Department of Education dealing with all these private schools, they'll deal with the public school that is located in that municipality. So we receive the funds. We contract with Emma Monmouth Ocean Education Services Commission to administer some of these grants. But then if there's any adjustments, they work through our state aid in making that for those reconciliations.
Thank you.
Welcome. No other questions? Mr. Nasser,
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Yes.
Ms. Stites,
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak,
Yes.
Mr. Gartz,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Krupa,
Yes.
Ms. Mangan,
Yes.
and Mr. Addazio.
Yes, thank you. Okay, at this time, we will open up for public comment on any school district issue. Let's go. Mrs. Oppergard?
Good evening, Mr. Addazio, board members. This is Christine Opagard, chairperson of the WTA Health and Safety Committee. We had a health and safety meeting of just our union members yesterday. Dr. Handerhan stated this evening that there's a desire to increase live instruction and that the health and safety of our students and staff is paramount. However, we have an enormous problem. There's a shortage of custodians in every single building in our district. This is not a new problem or a reaction to COVID. In fact, the Health and Safety Committee has been discussing it from our very first meeting. We do not have the staff to effectively cover the regular cleaning of our buildings, let alone COVID-required sanitizing and cleaning. At this time, in the midst of a pandemic, it must become a priority without exception. At the very least, in our opinion, one more custodian must be added per building. Additionally, it has come to our attention that the custodian at the primary school is no longer there all day, as in fact pulled to another location for part of the day. The students at the primary school are 3 and 4 years old, many of them disabled and not potty trained. At elementary schools, the day custodians must cover snack time, bathroom cleaning, and overall hard surface cleaning throughout the day. Again, it is a ridiculous expectation that sometimes one person, because the other may be pulled to another location, has to do all of it simultaneously. The WTA implores this Board of Education to fill these custodial slots immediately. It cannot wait. Our lives and our students' lives depend on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Oppergard. Ms. Marr?
Thank you, Mr. Addazio. Today, New Jersey had 1,663 positive cases. Friday, nearly 2,000. 10th straight day in a row over 1,000 positive cases. We haven't seen these numbers since May when we were all closed down. Safety being our main concern this year, from the Health and Safety Committee, one of the building representatives talked about the new barriers that have been installed in their classroom. And I went and saw them today and stood at the back of the room, as I might be a student in the back row, and looked through this plastic, because it's not plexiglass. It's sort of like if you rolled out a Coke bottle, flattened it, and then attached it to the desk. The student in the back is seeing through not one Coke bottle, but possibly 5. It's distorted, it moves, and the 90-degree angles on the side of the desks are not closed. So those tricky little COVID germs can sneak through because it's not a sealed barrier. I believe, the WTA believes that, I don't want to say you might as well have nothing on the desk, but it's not doing what we think it's going to do when we have to put it on all the desks in the other elementary schools. It frightened me for a lot of different reasons. From an educational standpoint, it sounds like thunder when you hit it. It's hard to see, and it's not protecting what we want it to protect. I would hope somebody could look into that. And it can't be, I know everything gets tied down to a money number, but the health of our children cannot be tied down to a money number. One of the other things that also relate to this being a crazy time where I can't even remember if I've done a sidebar or not. We have nurses working around the clock. Now, maybe not past midnight, but around the clock, tracking down contact tracing situations in this district. Multiple times in a week. We do not have enough nurses. Last year, we just got the nurse that was the float nurse in regular non-pandemic times. She is now the COVID nurse handling the outbuildings. So technology, central office, transportation, cafeteria, special services. She's controlling that. And with all the RUVNA temperatures, that's a full-time job. Now, somebody calls out, Allenwood calls out, she now has to go to Allenwood. We don't have enough coverage in a pandemic to think we're safe. We can't have two nurses go down because they are looking at the most sensitive information that the district should be looking at. And I'm not talking at Bayada nurse. I'm talking about hiring a full-time contracted nurse for this year. Maybe next year we won't need that person, but to think we can get through with what we have, we've been so lucky to not have a lot of outbreaks or cases. But the winter and virus season is upon us. I want the Board of Ed to understand how important another full-time nurse is to this district. And I believe that nurse ought to be assigned to the elementaries, a float elementary nurse. And Trish can be the float intermediate high school nurse. I would like everyone to think and spend some time on that, please. The other thing that we are concerned about, and Dr. Handerhan did speak to it, is that we are spending so much time and effort making sure everyone is safe. 6 feet apart, sanitize in, sanitize out. And we are going to have indoor unmasked sports in our building. And I understand a parent will come on and say, well, if you can have an indoor unmasked sport in the building, why can't you bring everybody back? But the safety part of the WTEA is saying, how can you have an indoor unmasked sport running in a building when you're trying to keep everyone safe? And the only other thing that I wanted to talk about is briefly the internet, not the issue about the internet, because obviously things happen that no one has planned for. But it just seems bizarre that when we had so many people at the beginning of the year asking for accommodations because of their own health, where they felt if they could work from home, they could provide the education to the students of Wall, and they were all turned down. They had to take a leave if they felt they couldn't do it. But on the blink of an eye, the intermediate school has been told to work from home. Not asked, not suggested to have a conversation with the association president on it, asked for a portion of the association to work differently than the rest of the district. Now, you would think I would be thrilled because I am one of those teachers. It's just not the way things should have been. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Christine,
Yes. Hi,
good evening.
Christine Vinegra, M Street. Sorry for the screaming in the back to my kids, but I would just like to give a shout out to Wall Township. I'm an educator, so is my husband. And I have a son who attends West Belmar Elementary kindergarten. And unfortunately, he was exposed to COVID this past week in school, so we're virtually teaching. But from the second it happened, getting the phone call at night from the nurse on Friday, to Mr. Abil calling us on Sunday, to Miss Thompson reaching out, to Miss Morano, who did a phenomenal job doing the online virtual teaching, and then she called me after. You know, I know it's not easy at all, and I'm giving the parents even like kudos to you, because I'm a teacher and I'm doing it from the opposite end, but it is not easy. And I really support your 5 days a week, 9 to 1. I couldn't be more thankful, because kindergarten especially is a crucial year, especially for my son who receives OT and PT. And I just thought it should be acknowledged that, you know, we're all trying our hardest and you guys are doing a great job, and the teachers and Mr. Abil and everyone, thank you. I just wanted to let you know.
We thank you for that. It's greatly appreciated to hear people actually, you know, recognize what the staff does and how they go above and beyond. So thank you for that. And you
Sure.
continue to be safe as well, where
Thank
you
you.
are. Have a
Thank you.
good night. Mr. Cortez?
Hi. First, I'd like to say thank you.
Just your name for the record. I'm sorry.
Mike Cortez.
Thank you.
Thank you for the effort you have all put forth to return our students to classrooms. We were happy that Wall didn't have to begin the year remotely, even though we were delayed a week or two. But I'd like to note that at the end of October, our 5th grade son has had close to 30 in-person half days, while our 10th grade daughter has had 13, approximately. She is not going to be able to catch up. And when will the Board of Ed and everyone decide that she and all the 6th through 12th graders are as deserving of a 5-day in-person education as their younger siblings? We see defeat, frustration, and confusion with her on a daily basis, and we all need to acknowledge that right now the schools are failing to provide a satisfactory education to her and her peers every day. This is failure. We are, not we, you, all of you are choosing to fail. We can do this. Masks work. Masks are required. The children need an education. Bring them in. The adding a second or a third half day per week is not a success. That is an admission of failure or an admission to not try to succeed. Why can't we try a full day in school for everyone? Let's take the next step. We can't be afraid to take the next step for their education. Additionally, listening to some of the comments, and I've reached out to the board in August, and apparently there seems to be issues with cleaning. I will come and help clean. I volunteered before. If you need help, ask your parents. Every parent I speak to wants their kids in school and are willing to help. So use your parents. We are resources that you can use. And I have not heard from anybody, not that I'm expecting to, but to hear of problems, you can reach out to us and we will help. Private schools, at least one, St. Catherine's, I know is in every day, 5 days a week. I think that's K through 8. So I just want to reiterate that right now we need the Board of Ed to choose to succeed and choose to lead. But right now you're choosing to fail. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Betsy Cross. I wish I had gotten the chance to speak to give my clarification from Mr. Hall like you gave to Ms. Moore. If you look on page 102 of the health benefits, your expenditures are $2,137, $2,137,145. I went back and I looked at last year at this time and it was 23,000. So it's 10 times the amount. So if I had gotten the same courtesy, I wouldn't have to do this. So if you could give me an answer on that. I have some questions. Could you give us an update? I know Mr. Moreto's taking family leave. Give us an update on what's happening there. After all the nonsense that's gone on this business office, you know, looking at this timeline of the trailers, I don't think anybody could believe that the business administrator is actually still employed. If Mr. Smythe could answer tonight, did he ever work for the architect, Ferrati, that we did our referendum with and we had for 25 years? If you could just answer that quick question tonight, if you ever worked for them, I would be interested in knowing. I'd also like to know where those trailers came from and how many owners did they have prior. I've been asking these same questions for 14 months, if you could answer them tonight. I'd also like to know, I'm looking, you approved tonight expenditures for the high school. And I'd like to know, was RIS painting the auditorium, was that ever budgeted anywhere? Because I can't find it. And I've looked and looked. And Mr. Adonisio, I've gone back and listened to minutes, July 25th, July 16, 2019, you didn't even know the work had started. It had already been completed. We need answers on RIS of when the date they actually walked off that job on the trailers. Because then they were supposedly painting and then they were supposedly starting to work on the trailers. I'm going to give Mr. Smythe my time so he can answer those questions. I'd appreciate that tonight if he could answer those so we'd have them on the record. I've been waiting 14 long months and we should have them by now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Yeah.
Hi, okay.
Samantha, you're cutting out.
Samantha Bass.
Samantha, we can't hear you. I'm sorry. Samantha?
Thank you.
Are you there? We couldn't hear you.
Just have a, obviously over the past, Can you hear or no?
Yeah, you're coming in and out, and then sometimes it sounds like you're underwater. Oh, now you're muted. Let's try it out.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Sorry about
Nope, we lost you again. Oh, there you are.
Off street. All right,
Are you?
Hi,
So-
if it's going in and out, then it's okay.
Yeah, go ahead. It sounded clear right then.
Okay. So obviously over the past week, frustration's been building within the community, with the parents and the internet issues between the students and the teachers. And I don't know that public comment is necessarily the best forum that lends itself to the thoughtful discussion that I think some of these issues require. So I don't know if maybe you could, the other town hall you had was very successful, something like that again, where there can be kind of a give and take discussion and question and answers. I think that would be good, especially after the past week with everything that's gone on. And especially if you can explain who really is involved in the decision making for us outside of the district and what requirements we need to move forward, because frustration might be being directed, towards administrators or, people within the district that aren't really responsible for these decisions. You know, some of these I know come from the health department or come from the county superintendent. So I think that that's important for people to know too. And in terms of reporting cases, I think this should be consistent district-wide. I know that WIS sends an email to
Samantha,
the
I'm sorry.
entire school for cases, but the elementary schools aren't doing that. It should be a district-wide consistent policy.
Samantha, I'm sorry, you're cutting out again.
It's all right.
You there? Hello?
I am here, but if it's
Okay.
not, I'll just send an email. It's
Okay.
okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Sorry
As you
about
can
that.
see-
No, I'm sorry.
Well, you can see the internet problems just don't affect the school. It goes all over the place,
Right.
unfortunately. All right. Well, thank you. We'll look for your email.
Okay.
Have a good night. Okay. Anybody else for public comment that hasn't spoken? Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment. It's time. Do any board members, Mr. Hall, do you have anything for this evening? No?
Not that I
Ms.
think
Mangan?
of, Ralph, thanks.
Okay, Ms. Megan?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, there's a couple of things I just wanted to mention. I appreciate the policy committees and administration's decision to table the policy and regulation 5320 in regards to immunizations. I know it's ultimately health and safety of our students and staff is always a priority, but it's crucial our district also respects the rights of our families who opt out of vaccines due to medical and religious reasons. So I was curious to know if there was any insight or guidance that was mentioned from Strauss Esme, or if we had touched or reached out to other districts in reference to this policy. In regards to 16, the superintendent report, letter A, item B, I have to mention the fact that it's been a privilege to work with Dr. Gleason in the past, and I've thoroughly enjoyed working on the board with her. I can attest to her immense leadership qualities, and while this may feel like a loss to our district, I know she will be an incredible asset to our state education department. I truly believe that Dr. Gleason will make a tremendous positive impact across the state of New Jersey for all of students. We will definitely miss you, Dr. Gleason. We know you're going to do great things ahead. And then also in number 16, letter D, item D, I want to commend the teachers that are the willingness to participate in the research study, especially with this year that is constantly evolving and requiring teachers to work harder than ever before. I just want to acknowledge their commitment to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam, did you have anything?
I did want to respond to a couple of the comments that were brought up. One, I think in the two committees that I'm part of, we'll be talking about the custodians and staff. But I do want to echo what Samantha was part of what she was saying with regard to where a lot of the information's coming from, especially with regard to what was brought up about the sports and how that's unfolding. That is actually specifically laid out in an executive order from the governor. I believe it's 187. So there's a lot of things that, regardless of how we feel, even within the body and the text of the order, it says we can't really interfere in it. So I just want to bring that up and let people know that we try to do everything that we can, but a lot of times we have our hands tied from orders that come from on high and trickle down to us. So, I mean, other than that, I want to echo the sentiment from Aaron about Dr. Gleason. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I look forward to working with you again in the future.
Thank you. Christine?
Sure, I'll try to keep this brief. I certainly appreciate the input that we've been getting from a lot of members of the public. I also appreciate the input that we get from members of our staff. I think it's important for the public to just be gently reminded again that the Board of Education does not administrate the school. We certainly lend support. We certainly participate in making policy that governs, some of what we're doing, but we don't, at the end of the day, administer the schools, and I do think there's a little bit of confusion there as to how that happens. Certainly, I would like us to be as open as we possibly can be with members of the public. I will say that it's difficult for me to hear, although I appreciate Mr. Cortez mentioning his thoughts that that we need to make a decision that our 6 through 12 students deserve the same kind of education our elementary school kids deserve. But I would say that I think just phrasing it like that is unfair. I mean, we think all of our students are important, and to suggest that we're choosing to fail, in my opinion, is just not accurate. Every member of the board is really working very hard and trying to take points of view from many different public members of the public. And there are, in fact, people who have very, very, very conflicting views. So please understand that we are all trying to work together to move this district forward. And at the end of the day, I believe Dr. Handerhan, who's our superintendent of schools, who says that ultimately we all want to get the kids back to school. Nothing would make any of us happier. And our job is to try to move the district forward as a team. We're not working against anyone. So I do appreciate everything that people are putting in, and we take everything into account. And we're still here working as hard as we can for our kids and our students and our staff.
Thank you. Ken, do you have anything?
Yes, I just wanted to bring up we've been doing a lot of reading lately about the bus situation, and the board was criticized for not setting out a private contract and allegedly was going to save a lot of money. But I'd like to say that the bus drivers know the students, they come from the community, they know the safety officers, they know the police officers, they know the cars that are at the stops. They're not afraid to report things. The mechanics keep those buses running. They do a great job. And the supervisors do a great job in training. And we should acknowledge that. It's another layer of safety that you just can't put a price tag on. Thank you.
Thank you. Andy, did you have anything this evening? You're still on mute.
Yeah, now I'm not on mute, right?
Yeah,
Everybody
correct.
good? All right. Well, I think I would like to comment on a couple of things. One is that we do take into consideration, as Ms. Dietz and other board members have said, all of the emails that you're sending, and helps us to process what we hear and what we see and what we do with the schools and the administration, and with Dr. Handerhan in particular. There's no normalcy with regard to what we're dealing with, and I truly appreciate, as others have said, everybody's flexibility in the positions that they have, whether it's parent, whether it's teacher, whether it's nurse, and getting the job done and done well. So, we're going to keep hanging in there. It's not something that we're alone in. I want to remind people, though, because I have seen some of the frustrations and concerns, even on social media, about our kids. Social emotional is critical. And if you're spinning and you're not sure what to do, the thing that comes to mind is to reach out. Let the schools know, let the principals, the teachers, the counselor, whatever, if your special needs, your caseworker, know. That is the only way we can respond. Looking at the school leader magazine here, it says it right in there too. So in terms of what we should be helping you, the public, with. So I know I'm talking to whatever 80 people, but it goes out further than that when we speak and help each other. To the extent of us as a board, we've talked tonight, it hasn't been said yet, but I'm saying it, we've talked tonight about how we can do things better as a board and in governance, and Dr. Handerhan and her great resources are going to continue to guide us that way. But make no mistake, as I said before, there's no normalcy here. So we've had to deal with the issues that we've had to deal with. Some, long-standing ones. So be patient. That's all I can say with regard to all of that. But please reach out if you're struggling. It's really important. You're not alone. And then finally, I would like to say personally to Dr. Gleason that you have been a rock star. And, I've been in education 35 years as a professional, too, now as a board member. And then, of course, all those years that I was a student, right? You are a rock star, and I really appreciate all the things that you have done for this district, and especially the work that you and the team, the school administrators, teachers, and staff did during that really difficult time in the beginning of March, April. You got us to where we are now. And as Aaron said, it's not a loss to us completely, because we know you're going to do great things at the State Department level. And we expect to have your back number, your hotline number. No, I'm kidding. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Mr. Smike, did you have anything that you wanted to add this evening?
The only thing I'll do is I'll clarify the question Mr. Hall had asked with regard to the HR report and why there seemed to be a duplication of sections. And once you get beyond the first couple pages, which were added to the agenda today based on changes that have occurred since Friday when it was first posted. So the agenda that was first posted on Friday had the first item 1 being professional staff, which starts on page 5 of this agenda. Everything before that should have been an addendum to the HR report, or changes that were added, so that you don't have to go through the entire HR report to find any changes, anything that's added or anything that's been removed. Those changes are listed on the first couple pages, and it would appear to be that they were additions that were added on to the HR report. I'll follow up further with human resources to get that further clarified, but as we've done in the past, rather than changing the HR report, we've added an addendum to the HR report, or added pages so that, and we put that to the top or the front so that it's more readily available or noticeable to the board and the public. I hope that helps clarify, why there would appear to be a duplication, but it's just an addition that was added to that section on the professional staff. Because you'll find that there's a duplication item, Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2, and et cetera, throughout the HR report.
Thank you, Mr. Schleich. Mr. Scarillo, did you have any loose ends for this evening?
I don't have anything else additional.
Okay, thank you. Chris, did you have anything this evening? Yeah.
Thank you, Ralph. Couple quick things. Just number one, I mean, I'll speak for myself, but I think it's, pretty prevalent throughout, this whole world right now, that we're pretty sick of coronavirus, and, we're all doing our best to get this situated. And please continue to be flexible. We understand frustrations. We understand, wanting to get these kids into school. I mean, those are all things that are our priorities and our goals. We are handcuffed by, regulations. We're handcuffed by a million different things. We can't just go and operate, out on a limb. It's just not, it's not safe and it's not proper. So please, please understand that, this board, takes this very seriously. And I think, the administration and Dr. Handerhan and Dr. Gleason and, top to bottom, left to right, all over the place. I mean, we're all trying to do our best to, juggle a million different balls in the air at the same time. And I also want to thank Dr. I had a pleasure of working with her for 3 years on the board, and she's always been extremely knowledgeable and extremely positive. And I think this district owes her a great deal of gratitude for steering the ship through the coronavirus and helping us out in many, many ways. And I would like to congratulate you on your new position. And listen, Trenton is only, just about, half hour, 45 minutes, west of us. It's just basically one road that goes east and west here. So you'll always find welcome arms here. And that's all I have to say. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Chris. So before I get to Dr. Handerhan and Dr. Gleason, just a couple things. Our Wall Township school community lost Madeline McLevere. She worked at Old Mill School as a lunch para. She passed on October 17th. She was loved by the kids, loved her, what she did. She had retired to Spring Lake in 1999 and worked on the beach and also worked in our school. So want to send our condolences to her family. Certainly she will be missed by Old Mill School. In regards to, we get a lot of emails and a lot of feedback from people, and certainly, Chris touched on it. The public's frustration, our frustration, everybody at this point is kind of COVIDed out. Every day we're dealing with it. We're being bombarded with information, and everybody here is just trying to do the right thing to make sure we're doing it safely, while making sure the students are getting everything they need. The district has a plan in place. I personally think it's a very good plan. I think everything our district has done from day one, which I'll circle around to Dr. Gleason, has been probably one of the best, I think, in the state. From everything I've seen, our preparedness, having a meeting, weeks before we even shut down and started laying the groundwork, and then being able to transition into virtual world before any of the other districts around us, certainly says a lot about our staff and the way they overcame everything that was thrown at them. And certainly during that time, Dr. Gleason's leadership and her knowledge and skills. So as we're moving forward, we will continue to do what we believe is the best thing for the district. And again, something everybody needs to keep in mind, at any given second, we might have to 100% jump back into a virtual world, which we pray that we don't have to do, but we are prepared for that. And our staff over the past week and a half dealing with internet issues, certainly anybody that's watched these meetings has certainly seen at different times, all of us have internet problems, being dropped from the meeting, coming back onto the meeting, audio working, not working, even on a good night. Sometimes, I try to unclick people's mute to let them speak and it doesn't work correctly. So there's so much frustration on all our parts as we're working through this, but we got to hang in there a little longer, and we'll get through it. Just in regard to custodians, that's something that we have talked about many times, and certainly we had a discussion about this in our last finance and facilities meeting. It was brought up briefly, and it's something that I personally feel very strong about, that we do need some. So that's certainly something we're going to continue to look into and get some extra bodies in our schools because we need them. And finally, I want to end with Dr. Gleason. Thank you for everything you've done. I've been here on the board now for over 7 years, and it's been a pleasure working with you. You've added so much to the district. Every person I talk to has always had glowing things to say about you. Certainly, I've always had glowing things to say about you because I just respect your work and everything you've done. Your notices to the families in the beginning of this, putting out nightly newsletters to everybody and keeping people up to date on what was going on was certainly, I would say, unprecedented anywhere around, and certainly made a big difference. It made people feel comfortable and a lot more comfortable with this new world we were going into at the time. So thank you. I certainly wish you the best of luck in Trenton. Surely we know how messed up the state of New Jersey is, and certainly knowing you're there is a bright spot in this crazy world we live in. So I want to say good luck and thank you for that. I want to jump to Mr. Gartz because unfortunately I missed him. Russell, did you have anything you wanted to add this evening? I'm sorry.
I do not, Ralph. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to go to Dr. Handerhan, and then I'm going to close the night out with Dr. Gleason.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Adonisio. I just want to, really express, my gratitude for all the patience that has been demonstrated by members of this community, parents, teachers, kids. It has been a tough run. We're going to be stronger because of this. I wholeheartedly believe that, and I truly want everyone to understand that the goal is to provide more in-person instruction for the children. That is our goal. And we need to do so safely, and we need to do so with the intention of not closing for a virtual experience. So with that, I want to thank you. And I hope that you stay healthy, and I hope that you're also being able to benefit from some quality family time. And with that, I once again, I have nothing but I can go on about Dr. Gleason, but I won't because I want to hear from her. And this is coming just from Tracy. I will miss you very, very much.
Thank you. Dr. Gleason.
Thank you, everyone. I'm a little choked up right now, quite honestly. I thank you for such incredibly kind words and such a supportive message as I trying not to think about it as leaving the district, but partnering in a different way with Wall Township. It should be I that is thanking you as board members for the work that you do for this community. I have watched each of you work tirelessly and have the hard conversations and the meaningful discussions that are necessary to give our students the best experience academically and socially and emotionally. And you have been open to the conversations. You have always prioritized our students and staff, and it's been really my honor to work with you. It's just truly been a privilege to work and be a part of the administrative leadership team and part of this school community. I have met so many people here. I finally think that I have almost everybody's name down, so it's probably not the best time to leave. But I've really developed strong relationships with so much of our school community, our students, our staff, teachers, custodians, food service workers, all of the different outer offices. There's just a true commitment to our students. And that's why we do what we do. At the heart of everything, it's the students. And I've watched this school community come together in some really good times and some really great celebrations academically, competitions, athletics. And I've also watched us come together in some really difficult times. And while the difficult times are exactly that, challenging and difficult, there's a real beauty in watching this school community work together and really try to put our heads together to come up with solutions, and always keeping the students, again, as our main priority. So I don't want to say goodbye, because, as I said, I'm choosing to see this as a different partnership with Wall Township. I'm still right down the road in Point Pleasant, so I'll be coming by, and I'll be still seeing the students and at lots of the different athletics and competitions, and I'll always have a special place in my heart. Mr. Krupp, I'm going to work on getting you that bat phone number, and just know that you always have an ally and a supporter wherever I am, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gleason. So with that, yep. All right, with that, could I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make
So
that
moved.
motion.
Second.
Second by Russell. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Everyone have a good evening. Everyone be safe.